And now it's time for Mrs. Litt's Treehouse. Hi boys and girls, it's time again for Mrs. Litt's Treehouse. And today I'm going to read a story that's one of my favorites. It's Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, and it's all about being thankful for what you have. So, before we do that though, I wanted to show you what we've been doing this weekend. Come over here and look over the railing with me. Look down there. Can you see my new garden? Zoom in. See those pretty yellow flowers? Those are marigolds. Aren't they beautiful? And look at the tall, light silvery green one. That's called lamb's ear. Do you know why? Because it's soft like a little lamb's ear. Why don't you zoom out again so you can see the whole yard? There's the tree house. Did you see it? There it is. Let's go past the tree house and look at the Snow White house over there. Come on. Go zoom in closer because I've been planting over there too. Do you see that little garden there? We made it look like a little garden in England. It's even got a fun flower in it called snapdragons. I'm so excited. They're really pretty and they come in all different colors. But for now, let's go ahead and run down to the tree house. And once again, I'm gonna see if you can keep up. Let's go. Okay, now that we're here, I think it's Madeline's turn to go up the ladder first today. So come here, Madeline. Let me take you up the ladder. Okay, here we are, looking all the way up. Are you ready? Let's climb. I'm going to give my book to Luke so that I can climb safely too. One rung at a time. Everyone take their turn behind Madeline. Here we go. Almost there. Keep holding on. Okay. There we are. It's been a windy day again today, but I think it's getting a little bit lower now. So hopefully we'll be able to hear okay. Oh, do you see that tree there? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Can you see that? That place where the sun is sparkling, there's a hole. And last summer we had a family of raccoons that lived in that hole. And we would stand up here in the treehouse and watch them poke their heads out. It was so fun. Zoom back out so you can see everything. Oh, there's that pretty sun. It's getting ready to set. Well, here we are. I'm ready to read Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Come on in closer so you can see over my shoulder. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig. Now look right here, kids. That's called a Caldecott Award, and every year they award it to the illustrator who has done the best children's picture book that year. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual size and shape and color. Look, there he is. See all his pebbles? On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found a quite extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round like a marble. As he was studying this remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. To his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't usually stop gradually like rains usually do. It just ceased. The drops vanished on the way down, the clouds disappeared, everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if the rain had never existed. Let's turn the page. Oh, look at that. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly, and it struck him that magic must be at work. And he guessed that the magic must be... What do you think it's in, Mac? Yes, in the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. You were right. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and he said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black and there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. Look right there. Let's keep going. What a lucky day this is, thought Sylvester. From now on, I can have anything I want. My father and mother can have anything they want. My relatives, my family, my friends, and anybody at all can have everything anybody wants. So he wished the sunshine back in the sky. And then he wished that a wart on his left hind fetlock would disappear, and it did. And he started home eager to amaze his father and mother with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't even believe him at first. Let's turn the page. What's going to happen, Emmy? As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and mother. He could have wished that the lion would turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a gnat. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and couldn't think carefully. "I wish I were a rock," he said. And he became a rock. Oh my goodness, Adoniram, was that a good idea? I don't think so. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and went away confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. "I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy," he muttered as he walked away. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. "Oh, how I wish I were myself again," he thought, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, but there was nothing he could do about it. Look, here he is right there, Leo. He's just a rock, and look, rocks have no hands, so he can't touch the pebble. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. Being helpless, he felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny, but what on earth would make them wish that a rock were a donkey? The chance was 1 in a billion at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many stars. Oh, poor Sylvester. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what had happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning, but he didn't, of course. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot. Look at her tear. And Mr. Duncan did his very best to soothe her. Now, dear. Both longed to have their dear son with them. "I will never scold Sylvester again as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what he does." At dawn, they went about inquiring of all the neighbors. That means they were asking them, "Have you seen Sylvester? Have you seen Sylvester? Excuse me, Mr. and Mrs. Chicken, have you seen Sylvester?" Let's turn the page. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, see those little colts, and the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before yesterday. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. All the dogs in Oatsdale went searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, and into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but found not a scent of him. 'Cause dogs find people by doing what, James? Oh, yeah, exactly. They sniff. They smell for people, but does a rock have a smell? No, and so they certainly wouldn't have thought a rock was a donkey, would they? Those dogs sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it just smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. After a month of searching the same places over and over again, and inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what to do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened, and that they would probably never see their son again, though all the time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them any more. Oh, they're very sad, Liana. Look at them. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often. For rocks aren't usually awake, are they? When he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder because what season was getting ready to come? Look, Emmy, look at the color of the trees. Yes, fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell and the grass bent to the ground. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. Whoosh! It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food that they had stored up for the winter. One day, a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Let's all howl like a wolf. Ready? Ow! Ow, 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 ow! Then the snows melted. The earth warmed up because it was what season? What season, kids? What season do you see? Yes, that's right. It's spring. Good guess, Leo. The earth warmed up in the spring sun and things budded. Leaves were on the trees again. Flowers showed their young faces. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. "Let us try to live again and be happy even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." And they went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Mother! Father! It's me, Sylvester! I'm right here!" But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about while Mrs. Duncan set out the food on the rock for their picnic. Alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, Timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble," he said. "Sylvester would have loved it for his collection." And he picked up the pebble and put it on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey, that was a rock, could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized the pebble was sitting right on top of him. The magic pebble was touching him. If he had only had a wish, it would have come true. And suddenly, Mrs. Duncan said, "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day." And Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too, Father?" He looked at her as if to say, "How can you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. Suddenly, Sylvester thought, "I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again." And in less than an instant, he was. Well, You can imagine the scene that followed: the embraces, the kisses, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamation. Even the sun looks like it's smiling, doesn't it? I love that, Emmy. When they had eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it, but really, for now, what more could they ever wish for? They had all that they wanted. The end. Well, I thought that this would be a great book, because what I'm realizing these days, as we all stay at home in our houses with our nice families, is that really all that we could ever wish for is Jesus to come and live in our hearts and clean it out, and for our families to be safely around us, and all of us together. I love you, kids, and I've enjoyed reading with you up here in Mrs. Litt's treehouse. See you later.